Welcome to the Unleashed Life, a financial empowerment and lifestyle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Renée Baker. After nearly 3 decades in corporate America, I took a leap of faith to pursue full-time entrepreneurship, realizing that while we can always get another title, we don't get another chance to create the life we truly desire. In each episode, we'll explore what it truly means to live unleashed, going beyond traditional finance advice to help you break free from financial constraints and societal expectations, cultivate a mindset of abundance and possibility, align your financial decisions with your personal values and lifestyle goals, and embrace authenticity in both your career and personal life. Whether you are seeking financial wisdom, entrepreneurial insights, or inspiration to live boldly, you're in the right place. Redefine success on your terms and join a community of women who refuse to dim their light. It is time to live the unleashed life. Welcome to the Unleashed Life. I'm your host, Dr. Renée Baker, and today we're joined by Marilyn Shaw, a best-selling author, founder, and national mental health educator who has dedicated her life to empowering others to renew, restore, and redefine their lives. Marilyn's journey from experiencing a mental breakdown to founding Faith Therapy, an organization bridging faith and mental wellness, is a powerful statement to living an unleashed life. Her work in challenging mental health stigmas and educating others aligns perfectly with our theme of unleashing one's full potential. So let's dive into Marilyn's insights on mental health, faith, and personal transformation. Welcome to the podcast, Marilyn.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
I am so blessed and so very happy that we are having this opportunity to have this conversation and talk about all things mental health. I would even say wellness, personal transformation, really building on faith.
Absolutely.
So let's jump into it.
Let's do it.
And let's just start with your journey. So your journey, you talk about, began with the mental health crisis. So can you share a little bit about that experience and how it's helped you to find your own happiness or joy, or build on that faith and unleash a new chapter in your life?
Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was at the time super young, early 20s, newly married, working several jobs, in college. Just like that hustle culture was like running deep, in my veins, and feeling like I had to do all things, become all things all at one time. And that was just a recipe for a mental breakdown. And I actually wrote about it in my book about how I had, a negative viewpoint about faith. The scripture where it talks about faith without works is dead. I would pray. The Lord would tell me not to do something or to do something else. And I just thought prayer was my permission to go, instead of waiting for an answer. So that go just kept happening for me. And I ended up having a mental breakdown. And afterwards, I experienced so much shame because I was like, well, wait a minute. I'm known in this way for other people to be the go-getter. But now I have this, sting or stain over my life now because I've had this mental breakdown. So you're not as strong as you thought you were. That cape that you thought was flowing and blowing in the wind actually has holes in it. So, but for me, I was like, that was the perfect opportunity for the Lord to be like, your own strength is not what you think it is. But I ended up connecting with a therapist. And at the time, mental health was not talked about like it is now, thankfully. And I was wrestling with, being a believer. I'm praying and, asking God to really just help me to reposition myself to be better, all of that, but still in the back of my mind wondering, like, will it happen again? What is next for me? That kind of thing. But when I connected with a therapist who was a believer, it changed the game for me. She really helped me to unleash these belief systems that I had around being a go-getter and just hustling and performing and all of that. And from that experience, years later, I started to share my story online with other women on Facebook. Actually, it was at the beginning of the pandemic. We were all locked up, and I just had this unctioning, the Lord telling me to, hey, tell your story. Tell people exactly what happened and what has happened since then. And from there, women started reaching out to me saying, hey, I've been there, but I never got help. I've had a mental breakdown, but I could not afford to go to therapy. I am a believer. I'm a pastor's wife, but I can't say anything about what I have gone through. And that just immediately opened my eyes to realize that so many people, they live in bondage. They are not unleashed. They have these expectations from other people to be and perform and do certain things, and they are drowning.
That's real.
They're literally drowning.
That's so real.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing it and for unleashing your vulnerability, because it's the vulnerable moments that where we connect to people. And that is not my strong suit. I'm getting better every day, but especially in our community.
Absolutely.
Community, we don't talk about it. Black women, especially, we're always feel like we have to be stronger. And I mean, I don't want to speak generically, and this is not for everyone, but I know that I've been where people expect you to always be strong and your shoulders can hold so much. But when you're a person that's helping everyone else, who helps you? Who's coming to save you? And I always say, no one's coming to save you. We got to save ourselves. So when you took action and you started sharing your story and you started connecting with other women, what was that big theme, especially when you think about faith and mental health? How can that doesn't even seem sometimes? It's like, why if I have faith, how can I be broken?
Yeah.
But why is bridging that gap so crucial?
I was raised in the church, so I am used to the extremes of the extreme of what people worship experience might be to those that have to come in prim and proper. So that was a cultural thing or a lens that I have, and I feel like it's an advantage because now when people think about mental health, they think of mental illness. They think that it's either a demon. They think that it is a form of being totally out of control, like they don't have the ability to perform or function properly in life. But they don't look at depression. They don't look at anxiety. They don't look at people pleasing. They don't look at avoidance. Yes. Even some of the physical symptoms, like sicknesses that people have, diabetes, high blood pressure, all of that has a strong connection to someone's mental health. So when I started having this conversation, I knew that it was going to take some convincing, right? Who is this girl? She's young. She ain't lived life like that. But I knew what it was like to be strapped to the side of the hospital bed for having a mental breakdown, not high blood pressure, not migraines, but because of the overload of the stress that was compounding inside of my body. So when you think about bridging the two together, there are so many scriptures, so many stories, so many lived experiences that are shared in the Bible, but it's from only the lens of overcoming and having strength. Not from the perspective of mental wellness. Mental wellness for me, faith is mental wellness, meaning the Bible talks about faith is the substance of things hoped for, but there's no evidence of it. Hope is a feeling, just like anger, just like sadness. It is a feeling. Where do we feel things? In our body. So whenever you're going through something and you realize that my hope is being attacked, I don't have the type of faith that I think I should have, or you find yourself, it's very common in church culture to compare what one's faith looks like compared to somebody else's faith, or have stronger faith. And you add on the Black community, it's more of you got to be strong, you got to push through, because that's what we've had to do. That's all we know. That's been our primary coping mechanism. But now I have the opportunity to share with people, keep both, like keep that, aspect of it. But now there's so much more strength in your vulnerability. I don't have the same level of shame of what I had before. I don't have to hide anything about a mental breakdown. I don't have to hide the fact that I'm a therapist and I go to therapy. Like the two can coexist. For so many people, they feel like I can't because people need me. I'm in this position, in that position. I have to, do all of the things. And I'm not telling you to, share your business with everybody, right? But there's something special about you being able to verbalize the pain that you've experienced so that you can actually get the help that you need. For so many people, we were talking about this before we hit record, dysfunction is functional for them.
That's right.
So
operate in chaos.
I know.
Well, comfortable chaos.
Exactly. And because it's so normal for them, even the idea of introducing something different seems like it's a threat. Like it's like, I can't, there's no way that I can even consider going to therapy. What will somebody think? How will that even work? They need to go. That's a thing now because therapy's talked about so much, they can identify other people that need to go, but they realize, well, I don't really need to go. Yes, you do.
It's them, not me.
Yeah. Right. So for me, I'm just super passionate about, I've realized on this journey, my vulnerability is like creating a safe space for other women and men to be vulnerable too. Even though I sit in the seat and have the privilege of counseling people, I am in the counseling seat even more and unlearning different things by being vulnerable, by sharing the things that I've gone through to help other people to recognize you can have the applause, you can have the award, you can have all of that. But if your heart is aching and there's this dissatisfaction that's happening, you can be healed too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is such a powerful. Thank you so much for sharing this, and this just even relates to my own journey, right? And why this is called the Unleashed Life, and just the fact spent so many years in corporate, and while thought I was happy, right? I had all of the accolades, the awards, steady pay, very well paid, so much access.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, you have to be strong. No one's coming to help you. There's still some level of desire, need, dissatisfaction. And for me, it was not being able to be my true self, which actually I would say is my best self, and always feeling constrained by something, whether it was a whisper from a leader who in public would say all the positive things, but behind the back would whisper the most cruel things. Or being out front and hearing, just being a Black woman in finance and hearing some of the things that people said. One day I said, I might just start sharing those things, but I journal. So that was my way of not holding on to it, because I would journal. And I write, this whole story of my career is written somewhere. That might be a good book one day. It might be a little drama. It might put it on too.
There you go.
But I say all that because the one thing that you said, and I remember hearing, is in your vulnerability, you give others permission to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And being vulnerable, for those of us that are not vulnerable or are afraid to be because we don't want to be judged, what do you say to folks like myself, quite frankly, who haven't always felt safe enough to be vulnerable and don't know how to convey what needs to be said in the way that we feel? Sometimes maybe we're packaging it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But what are your thoughts there?
When you're a leader and you have been given the opportunity to make vision and do things for other people, you have a dual perspective, meaning you know where you're going and you have people that you are helping to go in that same vision. And the idea of being vulnerable can be consumed as a sign of weakness or threat to the vision moving forward, or an opportunity for those that are trying to lead behind you to get off track. But when you're a leader, if you are not comfortable with being vulnerable, it creates this illusion of you're not willing to change. You're not willing to adapt. You're not willing to really evolve in a way that gives a healthy perspective for you to grow. So if you're challenged with being able to be vulnerable, your release of journaling is a way of being vulnerable because you're releasing that what is in your heart. That's step one. Step two is to actually go to therapy. For those who have never been to therapy, it is literally like you taking your journal, sharing it with someone, and they have the skills and ability to not only pull back the layers, but give you more context as to how you are designed, why you move the way you do, why do you perform the way you do, why do you love the way you do. And once you have that, unlayering that takes place, you will start to have this level of grace for yourself.
Yes, very true.
A level of love for yourself. It won't be like this, when you're a performance mindset or high achiever, and I'm assuming that most of your listeners, they're high achievers, they're go-getters. You have metrics and things that you're wanting to achieve. So sometimes when you see areas of growth, you look at it as a negative thing. Versus when you go to therapy, it is really an opportunity for you to become even better at a better pace. Because sometimes you can think about when I talked about my mental breakdown, I thought it was go, 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 do, be every fast pace. But I was operating from a mindset of having low self-esteem, not knowing my worth, but I didn't have the context to know that. And from a faith perspective, I was angry at God. I was angry at God because I wanted to become a mother and it did not happen. So all that energy and things I want, I can't make this happen over here. I can make this happen over here. So I started repositioning that energy to something else instead of really dealing with the pain of not becoming a mother. And being angry at God. It wasn't until I literally can visually remember when my therapist, I'm just offloading, telling all the things, all packaged up real nice, saying it the way that I want to say it. I'm going through and, I'm here because of blah, 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 blah. And then after, a while, clients will sit down and they kind of call it, dumping, so to speak, in your first couple sessions. Then there's this moment where silence hits. And then she just looked at me and said, "Are you angry at God?" And I just said, "Yes." But I was not expecting to say that.
So you're going through this experience, you're sharing, you're dumping, you're putting out the information. And the question, she's listening. And then she asks you the number one question.
Yes.
You're angry with God.
Yes.
And your answer is just visceral. You just responded. And then that was a big breakthrough.
Huge breakthrough. That was my experience with being vulnerable because I had never had anybody to ask me that. When you think about your friends and your family, people that hold space for you, there is this mutually beneficial relationship. So sometimes they're not going to ask you the tough questions. They're not going to ask you the hard questions, meaning your actual heart, the position of how you truly feel about things. But a therapist, we're trained to listen from a different perspective. We're hear everything that you're saying, but also what you are not saying.
I think that's the secret sauce.
Yes.
Not say.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And they're able to hold up a mirror and recognize, well, you're going through all of this and you're telling me you're fine, but you don't feel pain there. You're telling me that you lost this and you lost that and somebody did this and they did that and you're not walking through grief right now.
Ooh.
It's that exchange where they validate what you don't have the ability to say in front of other people, because that's the truth sometimes. And when you're in leadership, you can't. You just don't have the capacity to do it. Exactly.
Or to really hear the truth sometimes.
Right. But when you're in therapy, you have the permission to be yourself. You're able to be unleashed. you're able to be your authentic self. You're able to discover things about you that you didn't even realize that it was even a part of your life. Like when I think about this process of expanding faith therapy, the beginning of it started at the beginning of grief for me. My mom literally passed away. And then 30 days later, it was like things were just propelling and going and like so much exposure and success. I'm like, Lord, these are all the things that I've prayed for and saw that you wanted this organization to grow, but I am grieving.
Yes. Grief is, I think people don't understand enough about how grief shows up in our lives.
Yes. And in that moment, he reminded me, keep going back to therapy, keep going to therapy. And I was able to still move forward. Like I had someone say to me the other day, how? I just want to go hide. I'm walking through grief, but I see you. Like, how are you able to still move? It's because I have the checkpoint. I have that space and time where I'm able to cry uncontrollably, to share the feelings of my heart, to even, imagine again, like my mom saw this for me and now she's not here to like all of the things that the ebbs and flows of life that sometimes we just try to move past, when feelings, they live in our body.
They do, for sure.
They live inside of our body. So if you don't verbalize it, sometimes sickness comes in the forms that you don't expect it. So what do? We take medication for it.
Just try to cover over it as another way of avoidance.
Yes.
Because we never really get to our stuff. And we all have stuff.
Everybody. Yeah. Everybody has stuff. No matter how successful you are, no matter how people praise you, everybody has stuff. The thing is, do you want that stuff to stay with you? Or do you really want to be free from it? That's where the faith aspect comes in for me. Like I realize that when the Lord talks about having an abundant life, it's not a fairy tale. Right. It's a real deal, Holyfield like experience. But the abundance comes from surrendering. Surrendering what? The expectations of what you think life should be.
That's right.
Surrendering to His will and not your will. And we tussle with that. It can be hard.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're thinking that it should be one way. We come up with this blueprint for our lives. And my mother always says, God is the best of planners. So you can decide that you are going to go in one way. And then God's plan for you is something so different. And sometimes it shows up in pain. It can be bumpy. It's turbulent. And you're like, what is going on? It's like you're not operating in the way that you're supposed to.
Yeah.
And as you talk about this, I think about, my journey, it started with grief as well. And recognizing and realizing that I don't get more time, but I do have an opportunity with the time that I have now to be the person and have the impact that I want to have.
That's right.
And that grief is always, it's there. I was thinking about my grandmother last night and I'm like, wow, I don't realize that it's been so long, but yet I still hold on to it. However, what this process is, and I get therapy, I am a huge believer in therapy.
Yeah.
Therapists, coaches.
All the things.
All the things. And some people are my therapists, they'll get paid. They didn't even try it. So thank you, Sue. Thank you. You know who you are. Thank you. But one of the things is the understanding. So we surrender, we have to be vulnerable, but there's so many people who are just stuck. You say your stuff. My mother says also, my mother got I should write a book on her quotes. She also said, if you sit in your stuff and she doesn't say stuff, it will burn your tail.
There you go.
How do you help people understand and get to this place so that they know that they can work with a mental health professional, that they can start to break free and unleash themselves from these constraints and bonds that mental health, whatever it is, because we all have it, make our mental health, we want it to be better,
right?
Healthier.
Yes.
To our mental.
Yes. I would encourage them to ask themselves this question. When was the last time you were genuinely happy and it wasn't connected to money? It wasn't connected to people. It was like you just had this overwhelming sensation of feeling happy and you didn't cut it off.
What would that look like? visualize, what could that look like?
Yes. So for me, recently, it was going to Hollow Scream. The religious side of me said, why would you go there? Why would you do that? Yes, yes. But when I went, I cannot tell you how much I screamed and laughed like the whole entire night, and like the very next day, I'm sharing with my husband. I'm on calls and meetings and telling, but like I had so much fun. I felt unleashed. Wow. I literally felt like it wasn't even, it didn't have anything to do with the actual experience of being there. It had so much more to do with, I gave myself permission to be happy.
And just let go.
And to do it in a way that this is something that I wanted to do. So when you think about being stuck, when you think about feeling like this is just what it is, things won't never change for me, I want you to think about, when was the last time you were actually happy? Yes. When was the last time that you were overjoyed and you didn't limit it? You didn't say, oh, I'm so happy, but I don't want to brag. What will people think? Or, I'm just humble. Like, you have all of these prerequisites to your happiness.
Right. Yeah.
When you have prerequisites to your happiness, it places a limitation and keeps you stuck in a box to where you don't give yourself permission to fully live. Like, it doesn't allow, like, when you think about, science has shown how much more people who are happy, people that have a joyful life, that they're not consumed by a lot of sickness. Like, their perspective is different.
That's so true.
And when you think about somebody, like when you think about the word, it talks about the joy of the Lord is our strength, meaning you can find joy even in pain. Like walking through grief, I could think about some of the most off the wall things that took place then, but it was funny. Right. It was joyful moments even inside of pain. But I tell people this all the time, that you have to be willing to disconnect from limiting beliefs that's literally kept you stuck.
Oh, you're preaching now. You got me all choked up. Can you say that again?
You have to be willing to disconnect and unleash from limiting belief systems that keep you stuck. A system can be anything. Like you talked about the system of the employee, like the mindset of corporate and what that looked like and how that kept you stuck. It could be a relationship for somebody else, that system that has kept them stuck. It could be a friendship or family members that generationally it seemed like it always had to be that way, but it's a system that has kept you stuck. You have to get this boldness on the inside of you to where you're like, I can't, no more.
You'll say enough is enough. And sometimes it's mindset. And
absolutely.
Sometimes it can be mindset, but even in life.
Absolutely.
And, for me, I remember that time where I truly felt unleashed. And I've been talking about being unleashed for so long when I went skydiving. And it was the one thing on this list of things that I said I wanted to do that I was the most afraid to do. And going out, and for everyone, it's not for skydiving, but that was the last time. Every time I go skydiving, I feel free.
Wow.
And it is just jumping, and you got to be a bold person.
Yeah.
I think it's that scary, but for some people, you got to be pretty bold to say, you know what, let me jump out of this plane.
Yeah.
It is so freeing. And that first drop, where it's just free fall, it's not like a roller coaster, so you don't feel it in your stomach. But it's just drop. And then you just drop, and then when the parachute comes up, you just glide. And you get to see the world from a different perspective. And while everyone's skydive is going to be different, what I'm hearing from you is to break free from those constraints. That's what we talk about. Break free from those constraints so that you can live the life that you're truly meant to be.
Absolutely.
That God wants us to live.
Absolutely.
Versus in living in this pain. And we were talking before we hit record about pain of gain and pain of saying. And how those limiting beliefs keep us in our same situation.
Yep.
So with all of that, Marilyn, when people are at this intersection and where they want to unleash their potential, and then they're trying to figure out, they have the therapy, they have the counseling, they have the faith. What's a moment for you where you can give people hope that might be listening now and like, I feel like I've done all those things, but I still feel stuck. What else do I need to do? What can I do to break free?
Cultivate hope. Cultivate hope. Like earlier, I talked about how hope is a feeling like other things are. And sometimes we can be so tethered to the system of anger, the system of things that limiting beliefs that can keep you stuck. But when you begin to build this rhythm of cultivating hope in your life, that is going to be the key that's going to break you free from that belief system. So what I mean by cultivating it, it's a feeling. Remember, feelings are there. It's a body experience. So you have to be intentional about what gives you hope. What is it can be the smallest thing where you're like, okay, maybe you're in a bad relationship, or maybe you're trying to turn around your finances and you're like, my credit score is down to crap right now. I can't. You have to be intentional about doing the small things and being the biggest cheerleader when you make that first step. That's right. That feeling of hope gives you the momentum. I say putting the gas in the tank on where you want to go about what's next for you. Be intentional about cultivating hope. It's not always the big thing. Like some people think this is a spa day. Those are temporary. You can't do that all the time. But when you start to be intentional about cultivating hope in your life, that is what's going to set you free from that limiting belief system that keeps you stuck. Going back to the scripture I shared earlier, faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. Your faith in action is when you are intentional about developing that hope in your life that gives you the ability to get to where you want to be.
I love that. And I feel like I live in cultivating hope. And it can be something simple, like you said. This morning it was, go to the gym, girl. Get up.
Yeah.
Get up, girl.
Yeah.
But once I got up, and I kept going, fine. So it can be a small thing or it can be a big thing.
Yeah.
Doing this podcast for me is I am cultivating hope. And I'm stepping outside of my fear. Oh, what will people think? So I'm learning a lot. We talked about this as well. So I'm learning a lot from my corporate life. While it served me in so many good ways, there are still things that are not serving me as an entrepreneur that I'm unlearning. So releasing that, surrendering, releasing the fear, and cultivating hope. So one of the things that you also talk about is how to reconcile your faith with your mental health. How do you give people an opportunity, or what do you say to people as they are wanting to make that connection? I guess they're struggling with how to reconcile that. And you talked a little bit about it. And can we build on the cultivating hope maybe?
Yeah. When I admitted that I was angry with God, it was like an open invitation to be loved again by him, because internally, I had like a strong, stiff arm and distance from him. I'm like, I don't want nothing. Don't say nothing. But it was never spoken. It was just the way that I moved, the way I thought about certain things, where I was just so distant from him. But once I actually said I was angry, it literally started to dismantle the wall that I built to uncover, okay, why am I angry? What does it mean for me to become a mother? What does it mean to have all these? Like, I was able to process all of that in therapy. Right. So now when I think about going back and reading and doing my devotional time, my spiritual eyes were open so much more, because it wasn't from a filtered lens. It wasn't from a heart that was so hardened and upset. Well, like, yeah, you did it for them, but you ain't gonna do it for me. Like, you offered this for them, but what about this? Or what about that? Like, I had this bitterness that was on the inside of me. But once I was honest and vulnerable, that became the journey. And it's not an overnight thing. It's a journey to where the Lord was literally walking me through reconciling with him in therapy. It was very much so. It's a step-by-step process. And the Lord knows if you're mad at him. He knows that whatever it is that but he's a gentleman. So he's not going to overstep boundaries that you've put up because of the pain that you've walked through. It's when you can be honest and say what it really is. That's the open invitation for you to actually be healed. You can't heal what you don't reveal.
Oh, speak. Okay. All right. You can't heal what you won't reveal.
Yeah.
I love that. Is powerful. Shared so many powerful things today. So let me ask you, we have a couple more questions, but I want to go through a quick lightning round.
Yeah, let's do it.
And then we're going to do a closing question.
Okay.
So for the lightning round, I'm just going to ask you a question. Just tell me the first thing.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. So I'll start easy. Vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream?
Chocolate.
Okay. Brunch or breakfast?
Ooh, brunch.
Oh, yeah.
Brunch. Yeah, yeah, because I get my chicken wings and my eggs and French toast. Like, it's all the things.
Hey,
yeah.
all the things.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so when it comes to music, what song is the song that gets you going? That's your jam.
Oh, there's so many. I can think of artists like Beyonce. I can think of Earth, Wind, and Fire. I can think of Mary. I can think of Tasha Cobb. It like depends on what type of mood. Yeah.
On my way here, I was listening to right now Unstoppable by Corinne Hawthorne.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I listened to that multiple times.
Yes.
Today.
Yes.
She says, I get all the way in it.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so the last question, your favorite color?
Pink.
Oh,
Pink.
Okay. Listen, I did not say anything about that.
Pink.
Guess what? I love pink too.
Yes.
So let's, as we wrap, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us, you have done so much. How can people get in touch with you and stay connected to you?
Yeah, so you can follow me on social at I am Marilyn Shaw. If you're interested in support through my organization, Faith Therapy, you can go to myfaiththerapy.com. That's myfaitherpy.com. All of our information is there.
And we'll also include all this information in our show notes. And thank you so much. I mean, listen.
Thank you.
People, listen up. Reveal your stuff so you can heal and get a therapist. Seek help.
Yes.
Because there's so much potential in us and we have the ability to cultivate hope. So thank you for empowering us to do so, Marilyn. Thank you so much.
And Renee, thank you for creating this platform for people that are unleashing their life, and you are showing them how to do it and doing it in real time, and that's what entrepreneurship is like at times.
We are over here building and revealing and surrendering and
all the things
every day.
Yes.
So thank you. And we'll look forward to seeing how this continues in real life.
Yeah.
You're unleashed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on The Unleashed Life. I hope today's episode has inspired you to break free from financial constraints and societal expectations, cultivating a mindset of abundance and possibility. Remember, living unleashed means aligning your financial decisions with your personal values and embracing authenticity in both your career and personal life. It's about progress, not perfection, as we journey towards financial empowerment and the lifestyle we truly deserve. If you found today's episode to be of value, please take a moment to rate and review this podcast. Your support helps us reach more women ready to unleash their potential. And don't miss out on exclusive content and insights by signing up for our monthly newsletter at reneebaker.com. It's packed with actionable tips to help you continue your unleashed journey between episodes. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and join our vibrant online community to share your own unleashed moments and connect with like-minded individuals. Until next time, keep breaking barriers, embrace your beautiful, authentic self, and live life unleashed. Remember, it's never too late to rewrite your financial story and step into your power with purpose. As always, be great, and the best is yet to come.